Number 9. Hi. I am a perfect all-American bitch and this is the brand new Guts by Olivia Rodrigo, aka Olivia Rodrigo. The child actress randomly turned overnight mega pop star released her debut album Sour 2 years ago. Pretty hard to miss in my opinion. 4 times platinum certified, literal record-breaking single, driver's license, 3 other songs with over 1 billion streams only on Spotify, and of course, this already iconic album cover. By any industry standard metric, this is a modern classic and historic record. However, its longevity as an album seems to have been overestimated quite a bit, as I'd argue what was more fundamental was the emergence of Olivia herself. Not only as a future mainstay in pop music, but also as the newfound face for an entire generation that for the first time in a while was culturally represented by one of their own, which is a big deal, especially in music, because you can try to relate to a 33-year-old Taylor Swift, but if you do, that's her choice, making the type of music that caters to you. But Olivia Rodrigo, what else is she gonna do than make music that resonates with teenagers? I don't think she even has a choice. Which isn't to say she doesn't embrace it. I think some of her writing is immature on purpose. She's an actress and artist, and once you do one thing, I don't think you can flip a switch like that. But a lot of what she's written over the years is just all over the place. Awkwardly direct, teeny heartbreak, resonant with the kids, only partially with the critics. Traitor, Good For You, Enough For You, all a bit scrutinized in the lyrical department. And you find a lot of this on Guts as well. And right from the get-go, I want to tell you that we need to loosen our critical fistballed hands and just enjoy the teenage mess as it is. I love going over lyrics with a microscope, that's more my field than mixes and whatnot, but criticizing something that was written from a teenager's perspective for being too immature is misunderstanding the point. There's a fair share of painful moments, I get that, but you know, once I just try to accept where I was at for once in my life, I had a great time listening to Guts. And if any song embodies this realization, then it's gotta be Bad Idea, right? Yes, it's cringy, but you just be the biggest buzzkill ever to point that out. I could tell you how saying my brain goes ah or blah 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 in a pre-chorus is lazy writing, but does it matter? The chorus sounds dumbed down as hell and uncreative, but does it matter? I'd even argue these are qualities if one considers the vibe. Same goes for that unorthodox silly fucking guitar. Have some fun, man, especially because this is another breakup album. And yeah, I don't know if it's more complicated than that. I'm not invested in Olivia's personal life, I don't care, but at least concept-wise, I think this record doesn't stray far from the last. However, I think it accomplishes this in a way less overly dramatic fashion, as grandiose ballads that don't work half the time aren't the dominant force on here. As I already said, this album's sort of fun. Sad, but fun. We don't necessarily get more pop punk or less ballads, and contrary, what happens is the line between the two is sort of blurred, resulting in a pleasant fusion. And she wants you to know, this is not some carefully drawn out music nerd conclusion, it's apparent literally from minute 1 of the opener, All American Bitch. And this song's a fucking mess. My first listen was defined by confusion about what to even think of it, but I can tell you that my enjoyment and appreciation of this mess heavily increased over time. Verses and hooks sit in a musical juxtaposition between sweet acoustic and unhinged dissonant punk. Figuratively, her breaking out of a societal expectation of an industry-polished American teenage singer, sarcastically writing about a public image and sort of stomping on it. Edgy. Pop punk is cool again, and whether you like it or not, she's on top of it now. Personally, I do like it, especially because we could have had it way worse. And yes, these days we're either working digitally or we bury our rock instruments 6 feet deep in the mix, but I wouldn't be so dramatic about it. This is not the desecration of something you love. I think it's a new genre, and doing it this way is an interesting new choice. And I believe that 2020's pop punk stands a chance at establishing itself. And this shows its potential, as by no means a perfect song, but a nice statement and a great opener to an Olivia Rodrigo sophomore album. A record partially made by and aimed straight at teens who are so different, and that's obviously a goofy fucking notion, but it makes for some real naive writing, and you do not underestimate the charm of that. You've got candidates like, I'm sure I've seen much hotter men, but I really can't remember when. And then the hilarious Everything I Do Is Tragic, Every Guy I Like Is Gay. Is that problematic? I don't know. Then again, moments like Vampire are inevitable too. Moments where everything I just said about me not caring about immature writing contradicts with what I can actually tolerate in reality. The song's fine. It builds up to its small climaxes very well, making use of dissonances that are resolved quite nicely. Also, the breakdown isn't great, but it's definitely needed. I just think the vampire simile is a bit too on the nose. She's real direct about it, like, yeah, I got it, he's like a goddamn vampire. Queen. Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl makes a similar mistake. I get the impression of somebody trying way too hard to relate to angsty kids in a kind of pushy way, marketing and shit. But it's fine because good news, this goes hard. Very misleading title, as it is in fact not a ballad. We're doing pop punk, and we're doing it in an adequately bold fashion. Every time I step outside, it's social suicide, and the note on that final syllable is so good. Whole thing sounds hectic and hasty, the mix is gritty, which all goes hand in hand with the concept of the song. You can practically feel the social anxiety creeping up. This is modern rock in Wolf Alice fashion. Take, for example, Play the Greatest Hits. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of pretty much all the punk moments on Guts. Get 'Em Back is by far, easily, not even close, the standout. You simple-minded people can't even comprehend the thought of how here for it I am. It's about a guy and her wanting revenge, but also having the giggles over him, and that's expressed very accurately in the delivery. Like, bro is so unserious and quirky, and that's fucking cool, okay? That childish singing, it's got an energy, man, I don't even know. Catchy drum pattern as well, so maybe I could fix him. I need help. Get 'Em Back is followed up by an intriguing mix of punk rock and Disney actress polished vocals, and Love is Embarrassing. I don't know what's happening on the bass of that song, but the depth of that is very much felt, supporting an interesting howling guitar on what may be the best hook this album has to offer. Olivia seems so liberated in this, free in expressions. Just look at the bridge for reference. I give up, I'll give up everything. Oddly empowering, which pretty much works as a description for the entire record. Sour was very whiny overall, just giving in to the heartbreak, the kind of awkward to listen to. You just felt bad for the girl, man. We're not doing that to that same extent anymore. Because while working with the same emotions and of course the same instrumental approach, those tracks are built on a sense of growth and collectedness. The lyrics are prettier. Your flowers filled with vitriol, you built me up to watch me fall. You have everything and you still want more. And you feel there's a conclusion drawn from all these emotions. And I wouldn't say she's an amazing lyricist or anything. The 2 + 2 = 5 thing isn't great at all, but at least logical is healthier than the mess that Deja Vu was. A lot to be perfected though. Bro thinks she's Julian Baker, but the balladness drowns out everything to a point of almost self-parody, and The Grudge thinks it's Driver's License but predictably falls short. I appreciate what was done on Lacey, for instance, a lot more. It's probably her best lyrical endeavor so far. It tackles the idealization of an impossible beauty standard with just the right amount of subtlety. Efficient and compact, no line is wasted in this highly polished drum-supported ballad. The self-doubt theme is actually explored a lot on this album. I take, for example, Pretty Isn't Pretty or Making the Bed, and it makes a lot of sense in these instances. Those are just kind of things you expect a 19-year-old teenager to deal with. At some point, I guess I'm really confused though about the last track, Teenage Dream. We're closing this out a confusingly melodramatic style. I'm sorry I couldn't always be your teenage dream. What do you mean? This woman's on her second album, 2 top 10 charting singles. I don't get why we're saying this, but I fear that they already got all the best parts of me. No, that's like objectively wrong from an industry perspective. And you could argue this is more about personal life, being scared of growing up, but usually that fear would involve a sense of uncertainty or lack of self-sufficiency in the future. But this girl has a pretty decent foundation, I think. I mean, any 19-year-old who can afford to stay in bed for like a week it's probably fine. Where's my fucking teenage dream? It's right here, and you're living the dream of millions of people, and you can probably continue living it deep into your 20s. So I'm sort of torn on that outro, complaining from a big purple colored throne that, to be forgiving, is the crown jewel of a fortress that brought back pop punk, and I'm grateful for that. And the song really does get good in the bridge/outro with the final rock breakdown, bringing everything to an end. Everything seems dramatic. This experience to an end. So, said experience is fucking awesome, which I had anticipated, but for different reasons. Going into this, I was just kind of looking for my update on the good for you doses, and I got it in Get 'Em Back, but I got a lot more than that too. We have on our hands a surprisingly well fleshed out musical identity, where no longer it seems like Olivia is trying to decide between electric guitar and piano, rather just doing both, and doing both of them very nicely, with a sense of calculated balancing. The quality of the material is rarely underwhelming anymore. That's not really, and you can point to moments that are just fine, but at least they have heart, you know? And many industry-fed artists don't do well creating such an environment in their music. Across 12 songs, the vision density is decently high. About the way it's put into sound, I can't really pick apart much. My musical ear ends at the point where nothing outright bold is done and nothing is really bad either. So I will just say it sounds professional, which has only been around for a couple of years, so continue doing what you're doing and someday, you know, they'll get around to it. I even got a feeling that rather these songs with the best mixes tend to have an issue on here. I'll put up the tracklist ranking already. Some of these don't need to be this polished. Is The Grudge inauthentic? I don't think so. I wouldn't go that far, but it's always worth reconsidering that question, and I will do so in the future. Still, I believe Olivia Rodrigo should have a right to your respect as an artist by this point. She's doing great things for teenage culture as well, being a healthy and honest identification figure. We tend to lack those. Anyways, Guts is a fun pop, punk, singer, songwriter, crossover experience, and I pronounce it an 8 out of 10. And of course, lyric of the day to close it out. I'm saying, of course, as if anybody knows, I'm doing the dazzling starlet, Bardo reincarnate. Well, aren't you the greatest thing to ever exist? A special shout out to Tom DeLong. And this has been my review. This has been me. Sorry about that. Here are videos. And this was a video. It's not anymore though. Bye.